and I think he's going to begin to put his efforts in that direction. I think he's going to continue to develop on the foundation of Pope Francis, but I think he's going to kind of take it more specifically to those areas that may challenge the United States as much as any other country in the world. Now, I know a lot has been made because he's American, and I have to tell you, when he talks now, it's a very comforting English. You know, it's like, wow, yeah, that's nice. I feel like I know this guy. Like, lives around the corner, and I think he downplays that a little bit because he is now a man for the world. He's not the Pope for the United States. He's the Pope for the whole world. And someone asked me, certainly the Pope's going to come to the United States. Well, Pope Francis, I don't believe, ever went back to Argentina, his home. I'm not sure why that happened or how it happened, but he never went back to Argentina. I can't imagine that he will not come here, but where he comes and when he comes, I don't know. I think because of all the talk about his connections in Louisiana, I think that might be a place he might stop off. I do know the bishops that were around when Pope John II came were really glad he came. We're kind of glad when he left because it is a monumental task. It is a monumental task not only for the church, but for the city, the state, to handle all the security, all the things that go on. I remember when he came to San Antonio, the FBI had some guy dressed up as a bishop so that he could be up there in case you need it. And behind the altar, they had a trap door in case something happened that they couldn't control. The door opened, the Pope would go down a slide underneath the stage, and they could whisk him up. I mean, those are really just ways in which they were thinking, because you have these massive crowds that show up. And so that would be something we'd have to think about from the church's point of view. I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's like, Holy Father, please come to the United States, but maybe not my diocese. I shouldn't say that. We would be welcome. We would love to have the Pope come visit. Really, I would love to have that opportunity. But it is a lot of work and effort. But anyway, so I think he will come. Someone asked him a question. They said, "Do you have something to say to the United States?" And he said something like, "Yeah, a lot." And then he walked away. Oh my God, what does that mean? But I think, here's the thing, and I'm going to say this from a more spiritual point of view, from my point of view, because right now what you see in the church, and maybe in the world too, is everybody, they're hanging on every word he says. So if he says something, oh, he's on my side. Nah, I think he's on our side. Everyone's kind of parsing his words to see what side he hangs on, okay? But from my point of view, and the truest spirituality of the church, is that I believe that this man was chosen by the Holy Spirit. And you say, how do you know that? First of all, because I was surprised. I was surprised that he was named. Okay? Because we automatically said no one from the United States could ever be Pope. We just erased that possibility. And all the Holy Spirit had to do, this is my imagination now, but in that moment, I think I've heard somewhere that maybe he gave a little talk or something during the conclave. All this Holy Spirit had to do was say, okay, no Americans, but then they looked at him, not him, he's American, but then all the Holy Spirit had to do was say, no, turn and look at him this way, from a whole different perspective. And all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. We've had those kind of moments where we can't think, oh, I have a problem, and all of a sudden, just a little, like letting go one thing and trying something new, I was like, oh, that's the answer. And I think that's what happened. And the fact that we were surprised by it tells me there's another something going on here, working. The fact that he chose Leo and how it speaks to the times. I think all that should be a way of seeing that here's a man that I believe was chosen for this job. He truly is standing in the shoes of the fisherman. And there's so much excitement about it. Now, this is my own kind of interpretation. We talked a little bit about this. I think the world is just looking for someone to speak out, some sense of some morality to the world, where it seems like everything is for sale nowadays. Everything is competition. Everything is part of a battle or war for more, for this, for that. And I think that we're hoping that maybe he can continue to speak out in a way that captures not just the imagination, but the hearts of people with some hopeful message. Some hopeful message. One of the things, in one of his talks, he talks about peace. And he said, sometimes we think of peace as just the absence of conflict. So we're always just trying to get away from conflict. Where, rather than trying to get away from conflict, we should be building a world that's centered on peace. That is, at the core of our being, we be acting in a way that promotes peace. Not avoiding conflict, but that means real change in the way we do things. It means real change in working together. And this was one of his great criticisms of Pope Leo XIII. He wrote a document criticizing, he complimented some good things, but was criticizing the kind of hyper-individualism in the United States, and that it really sometimes worked against the common good. And that's why in Leo XIII he talks about the balance between individual freedom and the common good. And they had he called it the heresy of Americanism. And that is that the American individual spirit ultimately says, I kind of basically know what's right, and I kind of basically know what's wrong, and I don't need someone to be telling me what's right and wrong. And it kind of becomes, we call cafeteria Catholics. You kind of go and you take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. I'll leave that one behind. Sorry, I don't like that one. I don't eat that. I don't ever eat that. And you take kind of what you want, and you kind of create the Catholicism that you think it should be. And so he talked about that. Actually, St. Leo XIII talked about that to a whole series of events that I haven't really fully understand, that caused him to speak to this idea of this kind of individualism that becomes so hyper-individual that there's no sense of real community except to gather people that you find that kind of think like you. And it's hard to find that group, so it's usually a pretty small group. And usually a pretty small group demands that there's probably a lot of people that don't think like you. So you tend to put up walls and hunker down together, and we end up separating. So I'm hoping that Pope Francis can give us that message of hope that we're looking for. I don't know of anything else. I mean, so many little Catholic things people say that are so wrong on TV sometimes that I cringe a little bit. Someone already asked me, have I seen Conclave? I've not seen Conclave. But because I was assured I would be somehow disappointed in the end. It doesn't sound like the ending's so bad, but I tell people Conclave is just the remake of an early movie called Shoes of the Fisherman with Anthony Quinn. He becomes the Pope. And same kind of dialogue, same kind of little shocking ending, but made back in the time when the movies were so long, they had an intermission. So when you rent the full version, you get a little intermission time with the music, and these sweeping pictures of Rome. And they filmed it during they filmed the file footage at the death of John the 23rd and the election of Paul the 6th. So they have real live. That's kind of interesting to see some of the live shots there. So I don't know. That's a little bit of something to say. I really wasn't sure what you're interested in, and I would be. Maybe I just open it for some questions. Maybe more particular.
Yeah. How do you feel you'll be on the issues of the environment, especially in Louisiana, we're suffering so much, and also capital punishment?
Well, I think that first of all, the Catholic Church in the last 3 popes has been very clear that capital punishment, there's no reasonable way you can justify capital punishment, certainly in our society, okay? The only reason that the Church has ever said this might be a possibility is for the true safety of people, okay? We don't have that problem. In fact, we have probably perfected our prisons to the point we can pretty much ensure that someone who might be true danger to society could be kept separate, okay? Never has condoned it as a way of vengeance or justice. And so that's very clear. When you say the Catholic Church, some people say, well, the Catholic Church teaches that you can have capital punishment under certain circumstances. The teachings have always been, it's so rare that we would not even consider it as a possibility right now, because we're able to handle these things, okay? And so yes, we're 100% against the death penalty, and he'll continue that. I have no doubt he will continue that policy, and continue also the policy that Pope Francis laid out in Laudate Si, care for the planet. when that came out, it's typical. He mentioned something and a couple of lines about global warming, okay? And that became the big deal. The most powerful part of that whole document is that you cannot continue to use up the environment at the expense of the poor. Oftentimes they are the ones that bear the brunt of that use. This goes back to something I've been thinking about a lot, and I think it sounds kind of controversial, but I think it's so kind of central to our thinking today. And I'll even say that I admit that I also bear this sin as well. So I'm going to start a kind of a shocking little idea, okay? I will tell you that slavery in the South was a powerful, great economic boom, okay? And it works. It works great. You have great plantations, you have party, you have free time to develop skills and other things, okay? But it only works if you come up with one simple little thing, that an African American is not a human being. Okay? It works perfectly if you're willing to admit that. If you don't, of course, the whole thing falls apart, and it should fall apart, because that's absolutely wrong. That's actually a sinful. And the church was very much a part of that same structure here in the South, especially in Louisiana. Okay? And so there's several books coming out. Right now, we've just gone through, in fact, several dioceses around the world, around the United States right now, have pretty much all codified all of their slave baptismal records. So we have baptismal records in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I think Louisiana's maybe online now, I'm not sure. And we're trying to find a way to codify them. We have ours already. You can go search them now in our. And so I know, but that doesn't work. Okay. Now I'm going to say this, and I don't want to say this wrong, but whenever the Black Lives Matter came up, and I'll say the same thing in terms of the abortion issue too, but people got upset about that. And I said, well, why are you upset? Because they say other lives don't matter. No, they're not saying that. I think what they're saying, and I'm going to say it this way, when you say all lives matter, you might not be including me, okay? You might not be including me, okay? And so what they're saying is everybody really got to believe what they say. All lives matter. If you're going to say that, then you got to have the same kind of respect across the board. And it can't be showing up in blips and blurps here and there that more people are dying, more people of one class are being put into prison. That doesn't make sense, okay? And so I think that we have to look around us. How much of our success in many ways, look around and make sure you're making sure that our success is not on the shoulders or the heels or the backs of some other group of people that make us, go. And I think that's one thing that was part of the environmental doctrine, is that many countries who are poor bear some of the cost of the environmental changes, more so than maybe the richer countries that can adapt. Now, that's debatable, I guess, but that was the core issue. It was about us all seeing it as one human family, and the environment was for everyone, not just for us. And so I think Pope Leo will continue down that line, since he's pretty much said we want to look out for everyone, rich and poor alike. We all need to be seen and given the same respect as every human being. So I think that's. I think he'll follow. I think he'll follow that same path. Yes.
There's been a long-running joke in my family that the things that I would do if I were Pope. And y'all should see the list. Now that we've broken the barrier of having an American Pope, what would you do if you were Pope?
Slide down the slide.
Wow. What would I do? I never even thought about. I don't like to think about those kind of questions, because I have a feeling that when you start thinking about something, it has a greater possibility of happening. And so When they were doing the election, I was not answering my phone. Because I've been called twice to move, once from Dallas to Shreveport, and then after 10 years in Shreveport, I got another call that said, you're going now to Baton Rouge. So I'm tired. I'm ready. I'm settling down here. That's it. Okay. But I don't know what I would say. I mean, I think I would continue on with the same spirit of Pope Francis. All right. What I do since Pope Leo, and I'd like to also instill that, he's a little bit more methodical. It's not more, I guess, more precise. I've noticed he's been reading documents. He's not so much. I don't think he's going to be the kind of pope that's going to walk back on a plane trip and say, "Ask me any question you want," okay, and just speak off the cuff. I think he's going to be someone that's more deliberate and some more not less effective, but just more deliberate, like Pope Benedict was, and John the 23rd, really, in the way he presents teaching. I'd like to be clear, if I was to be the pope, about what the teaching is, but I'd also like to be generous in calling the church to, again, reach out to those who are on the peripheries, and that's what I would hope we would do. I don't know what I would say.
No rule you want to change?
No,
No
well, no rule. No, I'm not going to go there. I really don't know. I didn't think about that question at all. I should. And then you. Back.
What's your vision of the church 10 years from now versus today?
I don't know. I think if the church is going to grow, it's going to have to become more what he talked about, what Pope Leo talked about when he talked about missionary conversion of the entire Christian community. That is taking on a more dynamic, serious living of the gospel in our lives. In the early church, the great apologetic. Now, apologetic, I guess you're familiar with that word, but when you study apologetic in theology, it's about presenting the gospel in a reasonable way that's convincing, okay? And when I was in the seminary, most of that apologetics was geared towards the Protestant Reformation. Nowadays, I'd say the Protestants are more on my side, because the real question now is not, it's gone beyond religion, it's beyond why should you even believe in God? And why should you even believe in Jesus Christ? You're preaching to a world that's becoming more and more pagan. So the apologetic is different. In the early church, one of the strongest apologetics was what? See how they love one another. See how they live the gospel. And I think if we're going to continue to grow and prosper, we're going to show how we live the gospel. And we also have an answer to the world that's becoming, it seems like, more and more independent of God, but yet at the same time, it's becoming more and more depressed, lonely, divided, violent. Where is the message that breaks through that? And people, when they hit rock bottom, they come looking for the answer that will not go away. The hope, as they said this year in our year of hope, the hope that does not disappoint. So I hope that we'd have a stronger missionary church. I think the church is going to have to lighten its load. Just right now, just the practical things. Insurance, okay? Well, I had a meeting. We were at a meeting, and I was with the bishop of the Episcopal Church in New Orleans. And we were talking, and she says to me, come up, we're talking about something. Now she turned to me and said, "What are you doing about insurance?" Because anyway, so we can't carry all this property and all this. It weighs us down sometimes. We also have small churches that are getting smaller because of demographic changes. And they have beautiful churches, but beautiful churches that cost a lot of money to upkeep. What do you do about that? The Eastern Church has been dealing with this for a long time, where they had 4 churches on 4 corners, and all of them were magnificent cathedrals here. I think we're going to have to go through a time of getting smaller in some ways and larger in presence, you might say, in terms of the lived gospel. And so that's something we're beginning to even consider now. How do we lighten our load? What villages that we don't need? Let's not insure them. If we're going to insure them, we'll keep them until a hurricane comes through and knocks them down, then we'll just get rid of them, And so how can you moderate these kind of costs that should be going to much more reasonable and much more valuable kinds of works? And so that's a challenge, because that means changing a culture and a kind of understanding of who we are that's based on sometimes the size of your church or the complexity of your organization, and coming to appreciate how a simpler church is more effective, and shifts your values to more, I think, more long-lasting effects. So we're working with that right now. So I think that's going to happen just by necessity. It's already happening by necessity. Churches are being consolidated. We have about 5 or 6 groups now of 3 parishes under one pastor. Of course, that goes to the need for priests, but it also shows these parishes just get smaller and smaller. So those are 2 things I think we need to see. Yes.
I want to thank you for coming here. And given the first question, which was so surprising to all of us, and how well you addressed it, which was equally surprising, my follow-up question would be, if the Pope is ever going to come to the United States, would it be your view that it would be a good idea, perhaps, given on what you say, to decide to come to New Orleans, perhaps?
I'd like him to come to Baton Rouge, but if he has to go to New Orleans, he'll probably go to New Orleans because that's where he has some roots. I think it'd be a great sign. I think it would be a powerful sign. This time, not only to uplift just the whole sense of our origin stories, but just to lift up the whole area, I think. But like I said, he chooses differently than I choose. He chooses from a higher chair, a higher perspective. And he's got a lot of other cardinals, asking him to come see them first, And of course, if he's going to go to the heart of the matter, he's going to go to Washington. Well, that's what Pope Francis did. I don't know if you remember when Pope Francis was there, he was reading his text in English. But if you watch closely, he'd be like 4 sentences and turn a page. So I'm guessing that this English that he was reading, because he doesn't speak English, right, actually had a phonetic. So he must have he had a lot of text on that page for that 5 sentences, to get through, But I think he would love to come and address Congress. The thing was, here's the thing. I think that he's an American, but remember, he's an Augustinian. He's now the Pope, and he's Catholic, and Pope John Paul II, oftentimes criticized many things in American culture, calling some things the culture of death. That when you don't have any hope for positive things, you're not doing things that lift everybody up. You're trying to plug up holes, and you're using really a sledgehammer to plug up holes without growing a more positive view for the future. And so, I think he will come to the United States, and I don't know if he'll come to New Orleans, but I think that would be a great stop for him to make. I really do. And
we'll hit before the United States.
That's right. So I'll try to get that message to him. Okay. Yes.
This is a twofold problem, not just Catholic Church, the lack of attendance in our church, because I was thinking about assembly, child groups, and everything. I don't know what's all the groups in this town, but it's down. In fact, I asked a question today, somebody, a friend of mine was telling me, I said, how much I enjoy watching you and other ministers on TV. And he said, I do the same thing. I saw Bishop Duca, and so there ain't nobody in this church. I tried to think of that might be an early morning mass.
Yeah.
It's just, but on Sunday, I'm sure, churches are full, but he asked me that question. What is it going to take our church to get the attendance out there? Asking forgiveness with their views? Trouble they're having right now for paying suits. What's the avenue to bring back attendance?
And the question is about bringing back attendance to the church. I think ultimately it's the witness of the church. Okay, I think that's the ultimate thing. Some dioceses have stopped TV masses because people will say, "Well, I don't think I'll just watch TV on mass today," and it's just another way of compartmentalizing ourselves. The culture, this is what social media does. It continues to compartmentalize us into our own little homes, and we have no social contact. We no coming together as the body of Christ. And yeah, it's complicated. Yeah, you got babies over here crying. You got people over here you don't want to sit next to you. Oh, that's life. That's living. That's you've got to take the imperfection. I also tell people, when you come to Mass, you can look at the altar and think, oh, what a beautiful church this is. Well, you become a minister in the church, and you come up, like you're a Eucharistic minister or something, and you come up and you look at the people. That's what I do. I look at you, and you think to say, there is the church. There is Christ. Okay, you got to kind of have a much broader acceptance, okay? Because you might think that, I know where that guy was last night, or, how come she can't keep her kids quiet? You have all kinds of judgments in our minds. So you have to kind of, that reality. So I would say a strong witness of the church. I think we have to have a convincing message to those who believe they really don't need God in their life. And so until they come to a point where the things they depend on can't anymore give them the security they think they're giving them, then you don't have it really an empty opening unless you can break through that in some way. And I think a witness of especially right now where the world seems to be so lacking in vital, loving communities that really give to people a sense of belonging, I think the more we can make our churches welcoming in that way, I think the more we'll attract people back to the church. I think so. Now, that's a long process, and I keep my Mass, I have an 8 o'clock Mass in the morning, Monday to Friday, because you'll be amazed when I go out to the parishes how many people say, my mom who can't get out, she's watching Mass. She watches you every day, and they'll call me up. You know what Bishop Duca said today, and it's a connection they have with the community, and they can't go anymore. And so I do it for that purpose. If I didn't have that purpose out there, I would stop the TV Mass. But now I'm starting to get people that come to the Mass at the Catholic Life Center. On Sunday, you're right. It looks a little bit empty because people that know that we're doing the Mass, they sit towards the back. Okay? But also, the cathedral is not, it's a parish, but there's not a big population around there. The people that come to Mass on Sunday, there will be visitors in town, a core group of people, but it's not a full, lively parish like you would have with a school and all those things. So it doesn't always attract a large number of people. What's interesting is once in a while I'll get some, where are you from? Oh, I'm from New York. What are you doing here? They're taking the river cruise down. And so I'll meet some interesting people that way. But sometimes it does look kind of empty at the Mass. We have a lot, it's not counting all the people that are watching on TV as well. They can't get out for Mass that day. So, but yeah, those are some things, some ideas. I see right here.
Yes, sir. I'm very aware of the wonderful work that Catholic Charities does in the community, but I wondered how the national movement, which is anti-immigration, might be affecting your team or your work there at Catholic Charities. You might
Most Catholic charities, ours are multi-million-dollar works. That is true. They become the conduit for a lot of federal money, and they're actually usually rated, top rated about in terms of using that money well. And we had a very large, we had money coming in for resettlement. And these are people that are coming to the United States that are legally coming, and the government provides a certain amount of money for them to get resettled. It's a combination of the money that we receive from the government and also charitable work. So oftentimes Catholic Charities will meet them at the airport. They settle them into they have a place for them, an apartment or something. St. Vincent de Paul will provide sometimes the furniture and all the things they need for the house. They have they have little boxes over there. The Catholic Charities, like kitchen in a box. It'll have all the pots and pans you need to set up a kitchen, and so they'll do that work. That work has basically shut down now. That money has stopped coming in, and they're trying to reap some of the money that they've already spent. But those programs come and go according to how they're supported. If we're going to do that, we can do it ourselves. We just have to figure out how to fund it. What we are funding or continuing and growing is our food program at the moment. So we have faith-filled food. We have a place on Corsi now. It used to be a bathroom
I saw it last
place, and they've now got that all set up with coolers and freezers So now they not only take in government food, but now they go to grocery stores, distributors, truckers that have a load of vegetables that weren't accepted, but they're still good. They can drop them off there. They can now house them, cooler, freezer, and then distribute them. That food comes in without any restrictions. It can go out to any food bank or church food situation where they can go out. And so they're very much involved in the food process now. We do adoptions as well through there. We do many other services, long-term resettlement. We're still working on people that were in the 2017 flood. We still walk with some of those people as case managers. So we still are forward, especially in terms of hurricanes, setting up feeding stations and other things, which is many times the work of the parishes as well. So they're very vital and experienced and very well-respected organization. But they are being challenged now on these programs that they normally were managing before. So we'll see how that goes. Some of that money may come back. We don't know yet.
Kind of following on that question, with the cuts to SNAP and other food programs, both on federal and state level, do you see it's going to be more of a strain on Catholic Charities and other outreach groups to provide food to the needy?
Oh, definitely. I mean, when the money comes, if the federal money gets pulled away, they will have to find other ways to raise that money. I know that we have a child nutrition group that provides all the food for our schools. Okay, and this year again they're going to adopt using some money that's coming either state or federal, and they'll put out probably hundreds of thousands of meals this summer to feed the children that normally would be getting food in there from their school. They get a box that has, I think, 7 breakfasts and 7 lunches, and a gallon of milk or something, and that'll all be. They distribute those once a week at different places around. So we're very actively involved in trying to maintain that need that's not filled during the summer. And so we're actively, where we can, we can't do it all, but where we can, we're trying to meet those needs. But food is becoming more and more an issue as some of the benefits dry up and people find it more difficult to pay bills. The insurance, same thing that we're dealing with, we're all dealing with, insurance, medical bills, all those things add up. And sometimes it's the food that suffers. And so we continue to work on that. Well, thank you very much. I hope that was helpful or interesting. Thank you.
Next week we'll have Oliver Gardner. He is the Dean of the LSU Veterinarian School. He'll be here at 12:15 next week. Hope to see you then. Thank you very much.